With so many spectacle dramas soaked in folklore gracing Indian screens in the last few years, it is difficult to pursue novelty that breaks through the ever-growing clutter. Rishab Shetty did it in Kantara, the meager-budget homegrown Kannada movie which turned into a pan-India blockbuster thanks to its gripping portrayal of native traditions and mythologies that organically fetched universal appeal. 3 years later, mounted on the overwhelming success of that film, and with aspirations and budget far higher, we have Rishab Shetty back with Kantara A Legend, Chapter 1, a prequel to the last film, one of the most anticipated releases of this year. Does it live up to the hype, or is it another attempt trying to encash on past success with a hollow inside, likes of which we have witnessed in the recent past? Well, it's a thumping yes in meeting expectations, a treat to watch on the big screen with goosebumps reloaded. Everything that worked for the first film is in abundance to relish once more, and yet it leaves you wanting in more than a few ways. We discuss all that and more in this review video of Kantara A Legend, Chapter 1. The film sets up its connection to its predecessor in the first few minutes, instantly taking us back in the timeline and the crux of the story. A story of greed, exploitation, revolution, and deceit, like in all epics across the world. Perhaps it is 4th century India as a cruel king sets his eyes on the mystical forest of Kantara and steps inside to loot its riches. Guliga, the guardian spirit, comes to the rescue of the tribal community residing in Kantara, and thereby starts the generational legacy of unfulfilled greed of the royal family and the community's effort of keeping evil forces at bay. The tussles between Kulasekhara, the present-day king, and Barme, the warrior leader of the tribe, the one born with a purpose in mystical circumstances, constitutes the first half of the film as many secrets of the forest and community get revealed. The entire first half works like a mixed bag. We have visuals and set pieces to savor, but nothing that you haven't seen before. Torture scenes of the tribals remind of similar sequences we watched in Loka only a few weeks back. The tiger encounter, though carrying very contrasting motives, somewhat works as a deja vu for RRR. And the chariot scene, though fantastically choreographed and shot, is that same templated showcase of valor and courage of the protagonist, as we have seen in mass hero period dramas. Friends and fans, do not get us wrong. What we mean is that the film does not go beyond the shackles of the formula in the first half that is expected from the Kantara franchise, which broke so many rules of Kannada cinema in its first installment. It's not that the first half doesn't have any merits beyond grandeur. The world building works, although it takes its time. The reference to Rishab's character name to Burmer as the elder guardian of Tulunadu gels well with the folklore premise of the film. The depiction of barter system and the exposure of materialism on unprepared mind is a clever plot prop, and the choice to retain the original Tulu dialects during songs and Bhutakola sequences, even in the Hindi dubbed version, work well as the right aesthetic choice. What does not work at all, and more in the Hindi dubbed version, is the constant urge to put comic one-liners across all sequences, reducing strong actors like Prakash Tominad or Deepak Rai Panaje as insignificant comic reliefs. Regular comic one-liners with intense scenes is a template from the Marvel movies, which diminishes the overall impact and aesthetics, and Kantara Chapter 1 is yet another victim of this overused playing to the gallery. But then, the second half makes up and how. It starts with a bang as the revenge-thirsty Kulasekhara invades Kantara, and the prolonged sequence right up to the adrenaline-bursting culmination is a treat on the big screen. Gulshan Devaiah as Kulasekhara is superb in this sequence. Watch out for his changes in emotions and facial expressions as the sequence progresses, and you will acknowledge how this man is one of the most underrated actors of Indian cinema. It is this sequence where Rishab Shetty pulls up his performance to the next level. And if you ever had questions on how can one match the unbelievable act of Kantara, the first film, you need to rush to the theatres to watch Rishab perform in this new one. The writing also picks form in the second half with memorable dialogues like the one about crossing boundaries, as Rishab's Burme suggests how it is about gaining power for the rich but crossing limits for the poor. And then there is a twist, which of course we won't reveal in this review, but the intelligence is in how it takes on the known cliché of rich girl, poor guy, evil father, evil brother that we have seen so many times in our cinema and turns it around. Rukmini Vasanth lands up with a much meatier role than what such spectacle films generally have in store for its women characters, and makes the most of this opportunity. This was one complaint that the first film had, and Rukmini's Kanakavati comes across as a thundering response. And that perhaps is the hidden strength of this film, as you have quirks and characters to enjoy beyond the promised Rishab Shetty performance and Bhutakola acts. And then comes the climax, which is again spectacular, but somewhat hurried, we must say, with forced attempts to converge the many plot points and mythical themes the film builds on. Few of these do not work, and we can get into the details later, but it will still stand out for Rishab's superlative rendition. However, it is also to be acknowledged that the next time, or in the next chapter as the last frame promises, this possessed performance might come across repetitive unless it has real good writing to back it up. Just leaving the thought there while we plan for another round at the big screen to relish Rishab Shetty at his best. As we leave the theatres, we also wonder if the native myths of Tulunad acknowledges the Hindu link is to Shiva and Vishnu as the film refers. It somewhere feels that the distinct cult origins and native myths of Burma gives way to more widely accepted religious icons to relate to a much larger audience base. If so, then the novelty of the original idea of Kantara would be lost in the pursuit of pan-India success. And we hope that's not the case. This is a franchise and a film of man versus eternal vices of power and greed, and we can only hope the makers do not fall for the same. We are not scholars in this field and might need another session with Devdutt Patnaik on this new chapter of Kantara. We're also keen to know your thoughts on this topic and will eagerly wait for your comments. Watch Kantara Chapter 1 on the largest screen near you. It has its share of flaws and crowd-pleasing pursuits, but no one can take away from the efforts of the makers, the technical brilliance of the crew, and the ambitions of the entire team behind this game-changer franchise of Kannada cinema. That is all from us today. Thank you for watching.